Hi, Eddie English from SailCork here. And a very important part of being afloat is seamanship, the skills we need to be safe out there. So we're going to have a look at a mix of things in a short presentation here now. Nautical terms. As we said, it's like a different language. So let's begin the learning process. So a picture here of a yacht, but it could be a motorboat just the same. So in front is a head, behind is a stern. Something that's alongside us is said to be on the starboard beam, the right-hand side, or the port beam, the left-hand side. The port bow, the starboard bow. And what's on the starboard bow? Anybody remember? Klingons. Okay, and then there's the starboard quarter and the port quarter. And if the wind is coming from this side here, this is said to be the windward or the windward side. And this then is said to be the leeward or the leeward side. And with this boat here, the boat is blowing over the left hand or the port hand side, designated by red. So this is the windward side, the wind blowing over this side, and this vessel is on port hand tack. If the wind was blowing over the other side, it would be on starboard tack. There's lots of different names for different parts of the boat. Some of them are easy to remember, like the top of the sail is the head and the bottom is the foot, and so on and so forth. So there's good diagrams of these in your books. So I'm not going to waste time by trying to teach you them because there's more important things that we have to go through. So have a look through and read it a few times and you will begin to commit them to memory. Similarly with a motorboat, there's different parts that you need to have a look at and to learn about. One thing about sailing, you can't always go in the direction that you want to. And you certainly can't sail straight into the wind. So if we use this as our starting point, yes, we can sail up here at 45 degrees to the wind or sail up here at 45 degrees. And if we want to get from this point up to the top of the page and the wind is blowing down, we have to go zig, zag, zig, zag, zig, zag. And we're trying to beat the wind, so that's called beating. And every time we turn is a tack, so we go tacking. So the whole thing can be called tacking. So beating or tacking. Going across the wind is fairly straightforward, and that's said to be reaching across the wind. And going with the wind is running. So this boat here is on port hand tack, and this boat is on starboard hand tack. This boat is on starboard, this boat is on starboard, and this guy is on port. Now, with motorboats, there's a number of things, but something that people don't always think of. First of all, I'd always advise taking a proper powerboat course and getting your national powerboat cert and being legal and above board about it. And you learn these sort of things on a practical course, but it's good to mention them in theory as well. So many modern boats have what we call a stern drive. We used to call it an inboard outboard when I was growing up, but it's where the engine is inside the boat and there's an outdrive leg, just like an outboard engine on the back, which can be lifted up or trimmed down. So when we are taking off, when we want to go to speed, we bring the engine down, which brings the bow down, which enables us to go to speed. The only reason we might lift the bow is if we're slapping in waves, and then we need to bring it back down again if we're taking off at any stage. Just like an aeroplane, a motorboat, many motorboats have trim tabs, and that's to keep a boat on an even keel. So you press down on the port hand one and our port hand lifts up. Press down on the starboard one, starboard side lifts up. So there are a number of things that you should learn on a powerboat course. We want to look at moorings and understanding moorings, and this boat here is tied alongside a tidal quay. You can see the tide goes in and out. Therefore, we need to leave the ropes long enough so that the boat is not going to hang at low water. And it's important that we have at least the lines we mentioned here. So there's a bow line and a stern line and a forward spring to pull the bow back and a stern spring to pull the stern forward. And in this case, besides fenders, he's got a fender board because of this being a rough stone wall and there being piles on it. Mooring onto a marina is easier, same process. This rope is a little bit short. It'd be better off if it was longer because the longer the rope is, the more stretch there is. So the elasticity is important if a boat is rocking about in heavy conditions. There are different types of ropes that we use, and probably nylon is the most important type of rope we use because it's strong, it stretches, again for elasticity, and it doesn't degrade over time. And for anchoring, it sinks. We want it to sink to help with the anchor. Polyprop is a type of rope that sometimes is blended into nylon ropes. And you want to find out if you're buying rope, you know, if you want lines for tying up or anchor line warps, they need to be nylon. Polyprop, in its rudest form, it comes in orange or blue. And as they say, that type of line is for tying up goats, not boats. Dyneema is a modern non-stretch type rope that we might use in the rigging of a boat. So it is important to try and find out about the type of lines you need for the type of job. So we have to be very careful using lines. And one of the biggest problems with lines is that if we're not careful in pulling them in, pulling away from a mooring or from a marina berth, we leave it out over the side and we end up getting propped. If we're propped, we can't move and we can be into danger very, very quickly. With rope, we've got to watch if there's any wear and tear in it, and there should be no knots on a rope because every knot that's on it, it degrades the strength of the rope. Now we're going to have a quick talk about anchoring and anchors. And we've lots of different types of anchors. This one here is the traditional fisherman's anchor and is useful for fishing because we want to maybe fish in rocky ground. It'll dig in rocky ground, but it's not really suitable for most type boats. It has been superseded over time. And really the first one that became popular in the past was the plough, shaped like a plough and digs into sand or mud like a plough does. But it can capsize if the sand is too hard. So that was superseded, and probably by the Bruce. The Bruce anchor is probably the most popular type anchor because there's 3 prongs in it, and if it capsizes, one of the side ones will grab in, and there's no moving parts in it. With moving parts, there can be complications. It can wear away over time, or a stone can get caught in it. So that's why this guy is a very popular anchor. Also, he's out of patent, so he's relatively inexpensive. The Danforth anchor is a good solid anchor, and it can be bought in aluminium, which is lighter for certain type boats, but it does take up a lot of space. And then finally, the Delta is quite similar properties to the Bruce. Good anchor, but it's in patent, so it's still quite expensive. Now we want to look at where we're going to anchor. So the first thing is, we need shelter now and later. So if the wind is going to change, we need to think about that. So in this instance, if the wind is blowing from here now, this would be a good anchorage. So would this, and so would this. But if the wind changes to this later on, here and here are not really good. This is more suitable. We need to think about the bottom type. And if you look carefully on the chart, you'll see letters that symbolize the type of bottom that's there. R is for rock, M is for mud, S is for sand. So not very good for anchoring. Yes, mud is good. Now the scope of anchoring. When we leave out chain, it's 4 times the depth of water that we're likely to be in at the deepest if we're anchoring overnight. If it's warp, if it's nylon and some chain at the bottom, the bit of chain at the bottom is to help to weigh it down, but also prevent chafe, it's 6 times the depth. And we got to make sure we're not going to bump into anybody else where we anchor. And when we anchor, it's a very good idea to let people know we're at anchor by hoisting an anchor ball. And at night, we should have an anchor light, and that's the all-round white light at the top of the mast. So again, a little bit of chain prevents chafe and helps to sink things. We can have chain and warp. We know nylon is strong, stretches, and it sinks. And make sure we have enough swinging room. Okay, here's a few checks that we spoke about earlier on in the course, and we will speak about again later on, but it's important that we remember these things. Right before going to sea, we need to know what the forecast is, what the tides are. We have to have our charts, and we must have our plan created into a pilotage plan and a passage plan. Safety equipment for ourselves and for the boat all checked. The crew are briefed. They know all about the safety and they know what's going to happen. We inform somebody ashore of the plan. Make sure the battery is charged, the instruments, lights are working properly, and do check the engine in advance. Make sure you have enough fuel, water, food, and gas. And when you're going to sea, make sure that the windows are closed properly, hatches are closed, and the seacocks are closed. And it's always a good idea to have the anchor in readiness in case anything goes wrong. That's our handbrake. And our crew kitted absolutely fully. We want to talk about VHF radio. It's something that we've mentioned a number of times during our course, but it is important. It is very important that you have your VHF qualifications, and all it takes is a 1-day course and an evening Zoom class. Then you can get your license for your set, you'll get your call sign, and you're legal and above board. Do remember that channel 16 is the most important one, and this is for Mayday and Pan-Pan for all the work for those. It's also used for announcing security and initiating calling. The Coast Guard, these channels were changed in October 2020, and currently we have Cork being 0, 2, and various other channels as well. So you get to learn about the various channels on a course as well. Channel 06 is the primary intership channel. Channel M1 or 37 is the Marina channel in Ireland. It's 80 in the UK. So very important piece of equipment, and we should know how to work it properly. Flags are a very important part of our marine world, and they usually mean something. And in Ireland, as in the UK and many other countries, we're allowed to deface our national flag with some symbolism of various clubs. So the national flag is in one corner and the symbol of the club is on the field out here. So for example, this one here has a goat on it, and that's Skerries. We have the Three Shamrocks, Lochderg Yacht Club. We have the Maid of Éireann Harp, symbolizing another club. So it's important to know and understand what these guys mean. Here's another one with a bull in it. Can't remember what that one is. This one here is the Royal Ulster Yacht Club, and each club should have its own ensign and must have government permission to get this. Also, clubs can have burgees, and these are triangular flags representing the club. So this one here being Skerries, this one being the Royal St. George in Dublin, and so forth. There are other flags that are very important as well to us. And this one here is code flag A, and it means I have a diver down. And this one here is code flag B, which means I am carrying dangerous goods. Now that could be an oil tanker or anything like that. And then we use various flags in racing. This one here is code flag P and is used as a preparatory signal for the 4-minute gun in sailing racing. And these are numerics used to signify what class a boat is racing in. And here's some more burgees and an array of national flags here. So that was a compendium of information that is rather important, and have a look through it and back it up by looking at the little notebook and any other background information. And we'll throw little tidbits of information like that at you throughout the course.